rise. Pastor Riley Grandel with Gulf Shore Church will lead us in prayer this morning.
Let's pray. Lord, your word says that we're to come into your gates with thanksgiving. So we come this morning thanking you for this wonderful city that we live in and for the privilege and freedom that we have to come together like this to let our voices be heard. And so, Lord, have your hand of blessing and protection upon all of our military that are protecting us and our police and fire and first responders that keep us safe. For Lord, we just thank you that they're right there always on duty for us. And have your hand upon the city council today to give them wisdom and guidance and direction to make the right decisions for us, for this city. And Lord, I would ask that we come together once again, that the divides in this country would be healed and we would come together as one nation under God, truly indivisible. As we come together this morning and we lift up your name in prayer, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Gibson, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba. Here. Councilman DeWitt.
Here.
Councilwoman Carr.
Here.
Mayor Simmons.
Here.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Here.
Councilman Gibson.
Here.
Councilman Forbes.
Here. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're going to start with public comment on agenda items. Members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward at this time.
And Mr. Mayor, while that's occurring, we had a change in the agenda. Item G from the proclamations and presentations got moved up to consent agenda. And that was the special event permit for the annual Celebrate Bonita Festival.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tony Lee, and I am here on behalf of the Outreach Committee. And before I get into my statement, I want to start with this quote. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise, by Maya Angelou. And I'm so proud of this council for establishing the Outreach Committee and some of the goals that we are able to work on, including an educational initiative, reaching out to our sheriff, giving back during the holidays, and creating this event called Fiesta Bonita. And when we created Fiesta Bonita, we had no idea the impact it would have on the local community. We had no idea who would show up. I've been in other committees and participated in other activities in the park. But when I saw the families that came out to Fiesta Bonita, I was shocked. I was just amazed. And I'm so thankful that everyone has supported this event, and it gives back to the community in a way that I don't think we traditionally do. And I'm encouraged by it, and I hope to see that it continues to grow and that this council continues to support that event for our constituents, some of which will never be able to make it to this council because they are working. They're working individuals, and I'm so blessed that I'm able to join you all today. I'm blessed that I work for a company that is respectful of giving back to the community as well, and I really wanted just to thank you all for your decision on that vote today, so thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Barbara Craig, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Zoning Board. You have on item 7E this morning the final proposal, we hope, of the changes to the zoning procedure that will hopefully allow us and you to make more reasonable and reasoned decisions because we have a full record before us. I want to tell you that yesterday we had a case in which the applicants voluntarily followed these new procedures. And I want to tell you, sitting there, it made it ever so much easier to know what exactly they were asking for, where it was, what the issues might be, and it was an extraordinarily productive meeting that took all of 1 hour, which might sound very good to you when it comes to you. So I urge you, at any rate, to seriously take these changes into consideration and to make them, and they will be presented to you by John later. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here this morning. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Hello, good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Kathy McGrath. The first thing is that item you just moved about Celebrate Bonita. Just remind everybody, April 6th, downtown Riverside Park. We have, again, Sarah Hattica and High Voltage as our entertainers, and lots for everyone. So come join us. And secondly, I want to say buenos días y bienvenidos a toda la gente y residentes de Isla de Mujeres, which is our sister city in Mexico. We welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Roger.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm Roger Brunswick, a proud resident of the city of Bonita Springs, here on behalf of the zoning board. And I want to just reiterate what Barbara just said about the changes that the zoning board is hoping that council will wrap their arms around. We had a zoning board meeting yesterday, as Barbara said, took an hour. But the thing that I got out of it, with this new, with our new design elements that we're asking for from applicants on development orders, it's like looking at a photo, for me at least, of the finished product, and it just will make everybody's job so much easier going forward when you're looking at these new zoning applications that are coming, development orders that are coming before you. Thank you for your time. Continue the good work that you do.
Thank you, Roger. I'm just going to leave that on for now.
Good morning. My name is Jim Worcester, and I'm also here on behalf of the zoning board. And obviously, I concur with everything that's stated. And as this case that we had yesterday comes before the council, since it got approved, you will see what a big difference we're all, both you and us, will have to look at to know what we're voting on when the applicant presents something. And I would encourage you to support the changes that are proposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Morning. My name is Chris Corey, president of Bonita Bay Community Association. I too am here to speak on behalf of the zoning board and the agenda topic 7E. I encourage your adoption of that process. I think it will improve development within the city, and it's what we need for long-term aesthetics as they become available to appear within Bonita Springs. So again, I encourage you to adopt that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Good morning, Mayor, board members. Today I want to talk about a couple topics on the agenda. One is the Sister City International Program. It's a very interesting, and at the beginning of this month we had the opportunity to go up there and work with the President Carrillo and then meet his team, representatives from all different agencies, cultural, tourism, and education. They was sharing information and ideas and projects that they want to work with us, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity because we are creating opportunities for both our cities, Bonita Springs and Isla Mujeres. We're developing already programs and ideas, and we're building bridges between our cities and ultimately from our countries, Mexico and United States. The other topic I want to talk to you pretty quickly is about the celebration of Fiesta Bonita. This is the only opportunity for our community to get together and celebrate in downtown. This is going to be the third year, and it has been successfully event where all the families, not just Hispanics, but everyone came and be together as a one nation, one community. I think Univision has the power. Everything they have is the second most important broadcasting TV in the United States. So they got all the resources to making this event so important and put us not in just in the state of Florida, but in the whole United States. I'm working, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to be part of the outreach community. I'm part of it. I'm very proud, and I'm very pleased for give us opportunity to have voice and come and talk to you and give us our opinion and hear our voice. Thank you very much. You guys doing pretty well, very good job, and I'm very proud of you. And by the way, happy birthday, Mr. Mayor.
51 and holding until tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Council, what's your preference?
Motion to approve.
It's been a motion to approve in a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Okay, council, any comments? Okay, we're going to move on to proclamations and presentations. This is a presentation by the Florida Bicycle Association to Deputy Mayor Peter O'Flynn on being awarded the 2018 elected official champion of the year. And we have with us Becky Afonso. Hello, Becky, welcome.
Good morning, Council, Mayor. Becky Afonso, Executive Director of the Florida Bicycle Association, Oldsmar, Florida. For those of you who aren't aware, the Florida Bicycle Association is a membership-based 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is bicycling education and promotion of smart cycling. FBA, as we are known as, is not a bicycle club. We are and always will be people, businesses, organizations, and communities working together to build a bicycle-friendly Florida that benefits everyone. Deputy Mayor Peter O'Flynn has demonstrated his outstanding leadership both in the city and throughout Southwest Florida to advocate for complete streets as the best way to realize the city's vision of human-scale development and quality of life. He made this issue his #1 priority. As a result of these efforts, Bonita Springs received national recognition by Smart Growth America as one of the 12 communities in the United States for its outstanding work on implementing Complete Streets policy. Peter has led the effort to educate the public about the value of roundabouts and road diets, which has been critical to bring in these changes to Southwest Florida. Equally important, since he was elected, he has been committed to bringing a reality to Rails to Trails Trail to connect Bonita Springs and Estero, which is, I believe, about 10 miles long, and to make it part of the statewide network with a vision of how to take these two cities to the next level. Peter has built strong relationships with the Greenways and Trails Foundation, the Florida Department of Transportation, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and the Florida Conservation Fund. Through his hard work, leadership, and commitment, these leaders are now part of, quote, Peter's team to make Bonita Springs not only a complete streets community, but a complete community. It is my honor this morning to present Bonita Springs Deputy Mayor Peter O'Flynn, our 2018 elected official champion of the year. You have a mic, okay. I want to say, we have a photographer.
Okay. So Becky, thank you. I'm honored. But I've asked 3 special people to come up here. Mike Gibson, our city manager, Arlene Hunter, and Matt Feeney, our assistant manager. As we all know, no one does this by themselves. In fact, I'm part of a team. I don't consider myself necessarily leading a team. It's everybody working hard, and when you have somebody like Matt call you up one day and say, we just restriped Burnwood Parkway to make it safer, that's how this city works. We have a fabulous staff led by our city manager. And Mike here, long before I got involved, was plowing the ground with respect to safe bicycling in Bonita, and he leads our bike walk committee. So I thank all these people and all of council. I know Mike would share that in their support for what we're doing here. So thank you very much. Yes.
I'll just add for our staff, it must be that Bishop Verot High School training they received. Both of them. Photo bomb? Thank you. Okay, we're now going to go to a proclamation in recognition of National Boat Safety Week. Do we have members from the team here? We have staff officers George Lehner and Greg Ramshaw. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Just me today.
Okay. Welcome. How are you?
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy almost birthday. Like I said, 51 and holding. This is the last day I'll ever be 51 years old. This is a proclamation on the city of Bonita Springs for National Safe Boating Week, May 17th through the 24th, 2019. Whereas on average 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the United States, 76% of those fatalities are caused by drowning, and whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors, and whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today if they had worn their life jackets, and whereas Flotilla 96 of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary at Wiggins Pass is tasked with supporting the active duty Coast Guard by promoting recreational boating safety in the Bonita Springs and Naples area, and whereas Flotilla 96 was recently named Flotilla of the Year in Southwest Florida and plans to offer an ambitious boating safety program during the week of May 17th through the 24th. And now, therefore, I, Peter Simmons, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 17th through the 24th, 2019 as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. Signed, Mayor Peter Simmons, March 20th, last day I'll be 51, 2019.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations for everything you're doing.
Thank you very, very much. We
Congratulations.
appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, Believing in Girls Month. Do we have representatives from the team here? Mark, who's the chairman of the PACE Board of Directors. Hello there.
Yes.
Welcome. This is a proclamation on the City of Bonita Springs, believing in Girls Month. Whereas March is Women's History Month in the United States, a time when our nation reflects on the valuable contributions women make to our society, and whereas the young women of Florida are considered to be tomorrow's leaders, and whereas it is very important that we provide young women access to the resources and opportunities they need to reach their full potential, and whereas the Pace Center for Girls is instrumental in helping promote a better future through a caring community that believes in their value, and whereas Florida's Department of Children and Families, Department of Education, and Department of Juvenile Justice recognize the unique needs of young women and provide them with the programs and services they require to be successful, and whereas women are dynamic, invaluable contributors to society, and now, therefore, I, Mayor Peter Simmons, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing March 2019 as Believing in Girls Month. Signed, Mayor Peter Simmons, March 20th, 2019. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Keep up the good work.
I'll say, yeah, thank you. My name is Mark Bluss, Board Chair of Pace Lee. We service girls between 11 and 18 that have been subject to mental abuse, drug abuse, incarceration, death of parents, sexual abuse, bullying in school, and therefore do not have the coping mechanisms to succeed. Through efforts of this council and other communities, agencies, and the state, we provide these girls the opportunity to catch back up where they need to be in school and give them the coping mechanisms to thrive and then soar. So Believing in Girls Month is a very important thing, and again, I thank you, Mayor and City Council, for your support of our programs. Thank you.
Thank you for your great work. Now we'll have Lark, Angela Katz, Donner Bowers, and friends.
See, summarize.
Hello, welcome. Welcome. See, look at that. They got your good side and everything. Look, they got it. It's right there. Hello. Welcome. Welcome. Hello. Welcome. Well, Angela, would you like to say anything before? Yes.
Great. Hi there, good morning. 65 years ago, there were a handful of families that pioneered and paved the way for children with disabilities. And it really changed how things were happening in Lee County. They built a school because children weren't allowed to go to school, and that school was sponsored by Lark. And so a lot has changed, but one thing that hasn't is that Lark continues to be a modern day pioneer and transform programs that help maximize independence and employment opportunities. But we can't do that without a community. And since we opened our Bonita Springs campus in 2001, the city of Bonita Springs has been a tremendous partner and tremendous supporter. So we are so excited and proud and thankful for all that you do in helping individuals achieve and recognize their abilities. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Wendy?
Thank you. I'm the director of the Adult Day Training Program at Lark, and we have proudly been serving the city of Bonita Springs since 2001. We also have a mobile work crew who's been cleaning the Bonita Springs parks since 2001, and our goal every day as they leave is to make the city sparkle. And I think just by the individuals that we serve every day and our cleaning crew, I think there's a lot of sparkling happening in the city, so we're very proud.
I just want to thank the community so much for giving us this opportunity
fulfill our individuals to be out in the community to do these opportunities to make it look better and give them the opportunity to change their lives and be a part of this. So, thank you.
Okay, and I got a cool today. Yeah, my cool. Had a great day. Had a Chewy. Had a summer. Had a cool day. Had a Chewy. Had a boss in there. Had a cool day. Tuesday, a great day. Anything. Two of me. And a boy. You, me, that boy, that cool today.
All right, sweet. What's your name? Jimmy? Jimmy. What do you say, Jim? Thank you. You're welcome, Jimmy. Would you like to speak?
Yes. Hi, my name is Valerie. I come here all the time to school with my friends. Thank you everything for me. My name is Valerie. I could be a secretary. Thank you come here May Spring. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, as moving as this proclamation is, after that, I would like, so proud to present this proclamation on behalf of Bonita Springs, the Intellectual and Development Disabilities Awareness Month, and the amazing work that you all do, and joining to recognize you in the work that you do. For all of you and others, so many others, and I would just say, God bless, and now therefore I, Mayor Peter Simmons, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2018 Intellectual and Development Disability Awareness Month in Bonita Springs, a time to recognize the many achievements made by these citizens and their potential to achieve, to continue, to grow, and contribute as remarkable members of our community. Signed, Mayor Peter Simmons, March 20th, 2019. God bless all of you. Okay, we're now going to move on to item E, which is a presentation by Zoning Board on suggested modified zoning submittal requirements. John Dolmer. Top of the morning to you, sir.
Top of the morning. I'm sorry I'm not the zoning board. It's just me.
Yeah.
But after all their comments, I don't want to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, so I will move along
Talking
as
about
fast
the
as
Alabama-Clemson game, or what are you referring to?
That hurts, Mr. Mayor, but if you remember, you're only 1 year removed from a little heartbreak yourself.
We'll see what Michigan does in the tournament. Who knows?
Basketball season.
They got a good bracket. Got a good bracket.
Is it basketball season? All right. Before we get started, what you see on this first slide is kind of the intent of kind of where we're going. So it really sets the tone for what we're thinking. And what we're thinking began really when some of you just first were elected to office and started asking questions about the level of detail that you were asked to review for zoning applications. And since that time, we have been working and modifying our process. And at this point, I think we've gotten to the point where what we're proposing is consistent with what you have been asking for all along. And if it is not, this would be the time for you to tell me that I've missed something. So as we get started, those are the members of the zoning board. They have put in countless hours towards this effort, and I do want to thank them for it. They not only met as the board, but they divided themselves into subcommittees and took on specialized topics as well. Those are the people from your staff. Since I'm first, you know that I did not actually put this PowerPoint together. And this is what we're working towards. This is kind of the goal of all of these changes. This is from your comprehensive plan, and it's the vision of Bonita Springs. And it goes into walkable communities, communities with parks and recreational facilities, and a community with a heart. And I know I'm abbreviating, but that really gets to the point of what all of those statements say. These are the three areas that the zoning board divided themselves and decided to primarily focus their interest: site planning, architecture, and landscaping. And from there, the site plan, when they met as a group, they kind of came up with a list of ideas for each of these. And that will be the first slide you see behind each of them. And then the second slide will be what the subcommittee actually came up with. So the zoning board as a whole came up with looking at maps surrounding areas, building features, utilities, stormwater. These are all things that you have looked at in the past in terms of the specifics of a plan. What do you see on that master concept plan, and how is it in relation to buildings and facilities both internally and externally? This is a little more specific, and it's what the subcommittee had recommended. And it talks a little bit more about access, multimodal, not just for vehicular. It gets into dimensions, it gets into stormwater management, parking, dumpsters. They have discussed the idea of doing something similar to what Estero has with a pattern book. However, what form that takes and what name that takes, if we decide to do this, probably have a different feel to it. And this is how some of that would look. These are actually, ironically, development order plans for a zoning case that you heard not so long ago. But at that point, we were getting some of the detail that people were asking for. And specifically, building locations, driveways and parking. And they're a little bit difficult to see in the slide, but those are actually dimensioned off, and the numbers and location of all those parking spaces is provided. Dumpster location, which is in this area. And development regulations, all included on the master concept plan. They also were looking at having the master concept plan or a plan of the project shown on an aerial, so you could see not only how the internal function worked, but how it would work with external buildings and facilities. And you would see that communities and businesses around the proposed development would be listed, so that you had a feel for what could be impacted and how this project would work. The stormwater management. This is a little bit of a generalized plan from what they had discussed. They were looking for a little bit more detail, but that detail wasn't able to be shown on the screen, so we decided to use this one. As you can see, you see the arrows that flow, so the general flow of water through a site and out of a site. They were also wanting a little bit more in the way of elevations, so that you can see why that water was flowing. And cross sections, both relationship of the building, parking, and then to the property lines. Oh, thought there was one more. And those give you a feel for what's going to happen. And on this particular project, this would be the adjacent property. They would be looking into the site, and you would be able to see not only what was going to be at the property line, but as you got into the site, how that was going to appear as if you were looking across. And this is one of the ones they really showed a lot of enthusiasm for, and it shows a color-coordinated plan for access. So bike lanes or multi-use paths, sidewalks, and roadways all get different colors, so you can see exactly how they function both internally and externally, and how a project would be able to gain access to the outside world. Before I go, is there any more questions on site planning? Okay. Landscaping. This was what the zoning board as a whole had looked at, and this is what the subcommittee had focused on. And what they noticed was several of these communities, part of the review process does not include the entry features, mainly because it's mostly grading or a water feature or something along those lines. But they decided that it was something, because they are so prominent and because it is the portion of most of our communities that we will see, that is something that they thought should be included as part of the zoning plans. as well as more detail on the architectural elevations within relation to how the zoning or the landscape buffer would take place, would appear in front of it. And so this is a little bit more in the way of the detail they were thinking. Again, this is the same project you looked at before, but as you can see, it shows the location of plantings and the type of vegetation that was going to be included. You have the proposed buffer width, the planting location, and what's not included on this page, but they did ask for, was a conceptual plant list. So you can get a feel for what type of palette they were proposing. And they would also show a cross-section of the landscape buffer. So as you saw the cross-section before for the project itself, this would deal a little bit more with how the landscaping would interact with adjacent properties. And also entry features and plantings. Now this one is a little bit different in the fact that this entry feature uses its dumpster wall as part of the entrance. That may not be what we're looking to show as an example, but it happened to be a good example in terms of detail. And in terms of sign. So this sign located here and here is shown there. And so you would get a feel for what the view would be from the right-of-way as you drove by this project. And this was really the crux of all the discussion, was how this related to the architectural design. And this is where the subcommittee had focused and the whole zoning board had given their blessing. They were looking for more detail on the buildings themselves, the style of the building, what type of materials you'd be using, roof plans. And they wanted to kind of superimpose those on photos or aerial photos of the site so you can get a feel for what this project would look like in the real world once it was constructed. And so as you can see here, you have existing buildings here and to the east. Just for reference, the northwest is north. This is the proposed project, and they have superimposed a 3D rendering so that you can see how those buildings will relate to the adjacent community and how that was going to be, how that would function and appear once it was constructed. They were also looking for 3D renderings of all four sides. This was just one page. It shows two sides. Obviously, the two others would need to be shown. And if you look at the top of the page, there's the proposed colors that they would be looking at, and also the roof plan. So that roof is difficult to tell in terms of the way of detail from that drawing because of the colors that are used. But this plan gives you a much better feel for how the pitch was going to play out and how that was going to actually appear once constructed. And those were the main points that they had discussed. I will say that it was a very good discussion, and I shouldn't use singular tense because it was a multiple discussion process. The input they gave was valuable, and from the comments this morning, I did appreciate it because we were able to find a willing applicant that was willing to go about 90% of what we were proposing to you today, and the meeting was much smoother. The details were provided. We were able to discuss how a building and site would actually lay out and function, as opposed to what something was proposed to look like or where a building was proposed to go. So I personally felt it was a much easier process. Were there any questions or comments?
I wonder if you could just share the process with this applicant that agreed to do that. Do you feel, I mean, what was their reaction to it? I mean, would they feel that they could comply with it relatively easily, or, I mean, what was?
Well, there are a couple things working in their advantage. One is this was a developer that's done similar projects like this across the southeast. So they did have a lot of the detail that you would be looking for in this type of application. It was a smaller site, so there really was not as much additional work for this particular project that you would see as if it were a larger project. And three, they were just willing to do it. They thought that we explained to them the situation and where we were in our submittal process and changing our requirements, and they thought it was in their best interest to comply as much as possible.
And it is the case that eventually they would have to provide similar things if we just went to our current process?
The examples that I've shown you, all but the opening slide, were from a development order application that we received for a project you reviewed and approved within the past year. So that level of detail is provided, but currently a lot of it's provided at the development order phase.
Later, so it's just what we're really primarily adjusting the timing, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
John, yeah, if you don't mind. Can you go back to one of the first couple slides?
Sure.
Shows
Tell
the
me when
site
it's-
plan, that shows the buildings, how it fits on the site.
Yes, sir.
No, keep going back and forth. It's one of the first couple ones. That one right
Oh,
there.
sorry.
Either one of those two.
Okay.
Well, I guess what my question is, what's our protection? Developer comes in and says, all right, as I see there, what do we have, 5, 10 buildings? So right now, this is approved with 10 buildings on it. What's our protection? They bring this in right now like this. A year goes by, something happens, whatever. They come in and want to change it. Are they locked into this design with that concept? They want to come in and do 8 buildings instead of that. Still fits the zoning parameters with the height and whatever it is. Do we have any protection to say, no, this is what was approved, this actual concept and this layout?
You do have protections. They're in place today. We're not looking at changing any of them, and they basically split the request into what can be done administrative versus what can be done through a public hearing. So someone can always ask to modify their plan. That's really not in question, but how they modify it really is how we split that request. So if they're not increasing impervious, if they're not reducing buffer widths, and they're not creating off-site impacts, it can be done administratively. For those application, or if they're not underutilizing public resources. So depending on how that played out with the buildings, it could require a public hearing if they're underutilizing resources, or if they start making major modifications that would create a change in off-site impacts.
What if it was a zoning change of, like, this is residential, obviously,
Yes, sir.
multifamily. What if it was a commercial structure, kind of, you know, hey, we've approved a commercial structure of retail, whatever, 50,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet. Doesn't matter what it is. Do we have any protection that way? Let's say, let's use a big box store comes in X, and now a big box store Y comes in. Still can fit in that same footprint, but maybe we don't want X versus Y.
Well, the reason why a lot of this information was requested at zoning was because it goes into the zoning approval. And so the details that you would be approving as part of a zoning ordinance once this change has taken place would be significantly more detailed than what you're adopting or you currently have adopted today. So if they start changing those details, that information will need to come back to council for approval. Now, obviously, as we go through this process, what those details that would require council approval will be one of the decisions you need to make. What can be done administratively versus what needs to come back through the hearing process. But a lot of the discussion has been, I'm not sure exactly what I'm approving, and if somebody makes a change once the approvals happened, what type of change would require additional council approval if they start changing architectural features, or is it just the building location or square footage? And so that's been one of those questions we are looking to answer.
Okay. Yeah, because the concern is, you know, we get told it's X coming in, and it gets sold, and Y comes in, which is under the same zoning regulation, but it's not particularly what we may want in that area.
The goal is to tie a lot more detail to an approval. So if changes are made, you as a council would outline what could be done administratively versus what needs to come back through a hearing process. So if those details are altered, either you would know whether you're going to see it or not.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Laura? Anything? Good. Peter?
Big thank you to the zoning board. I think, in my view, this is exactly what we need. It's simply have the applicants come in and tell us what they want to do. No more complicated than that. And it puts us in a position similar to our neighboring jurisdictions. So it's not anything unique for good developers to go through. So thank you, and thanks to staff.
Peter, Mike?
Yeah, I also just want to thank the zoning board for putting the time in on this, and it looks like you've done a great job. Thank you.
Fred?
Same comments. What's the timing on when they'll have this completed? And then
With
we
your
give
blessing.
it to Theriak and Derek to go to work on.
With your blessing, we can start turning this into regulation, and we'll figure out what can be done through modifying the submittal requirements versus what needs to be done through a change in the land development code. Obviously have our city attorney and land use attorney working with us on it, and then work it through the process. Once we have a draft done, we'll obviously bring it back to you so you have seen it before we send it through the LPA and the zoning board before it comes back to you for final approval. But this will be one of the things we start working on immediately.
I think then the council has, and you should lead this, but we need to get our act in order better than it is on some of our requirements, because right now, I believe, unless I haven't heard it's going to be changed, I hope it is, filling in drainage swales, especially east of I-75, is just going to get flooding worse when we have floods.
That's actually going to be a topic that I will be up at the
Good.
podium for later.
Sooner the better than later.
In harmony. And
Yes,
I would
sir.
just say to zoning and everybody, great work, outstanding work, John. Great work, and look forward to working through this.
And just so council is aware, even when these changes are made, I still expect and would anticipate continued tweaks as we go through this process, because I don't ever look at this as something that's ever really truly complete, but just gets us closer to where we are looking to go, so.
So you're not looking for a motion of any sort here today?
At this point, I believe unless council wants to make a motion, I think there's direction to continue with this and to bring it back to you before it starts the process. So you will see it before it starts working its way through, but
I got one
We have
last-
7 nods of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one last question.
Okay, Fred.
What's the rationale, if you know what the exterior of the building's gonna look like, why do you need to be involved in what the inside arrangements of a building is?
Well, that kind of goes into the question of when requests are made to change exteriors, what does it impact on the interior? And I think we've had this discussion at the council a few times where there's been a request to modify the exterior of a potential building, and the applicant would simply say, well, I can't do that because you're taking away a room that I need or access to a different portion of the site that I can't take away. If detail is provided on the interior, you know exactly what you're impacting. And it just allows for a little bit more of a detailed discussion. But that,
If they want to change the interior arrangement after it's approved, as long as it doesn't impact the exterior, there's not a big deal in that.
I'm not looking to make that change, but that's going to be council's call and not my decision. So.
Council, anything
Hey,
else?
Pete, it's a little out of order, but I'd like to suggest a motion to thank the zoning board for all their hard work.
Absolutely, I'll second
Second.
that.
Second.
How's that? Roll call, please.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
No more tomfoolery, no more ballyhoo. Good work. Good work. I think what we're gonna do, unless anybody disagrees, we're gonna take about a 10-minute break, and we're gonna get set up for our international Skype call with Isla Mujeres, Mexico, and the tech team needs a little bit of time to get set up, and we can speak with our chairwoman, Giddings from the Lee County School Board. Welcome for being here. Thank you so very much. We have Councilman Jason Mon from Sanibel in the back there, and others joining us. So we'll look forward to our resuming at 10 o'clock. Thank you.